We are back for another Foxy TV. This week we are going to be concentrating on those awkward spaces that you have in your home. This is actually one of our top performing blog posts. So it's something that people are very interested in knowing. We obviously go through a lot of homes and we've come up with different strategies to how to get the very most out of each of those awkward rooms.
Lights, camera, action. I'm the main attraction. Post it up to get the reaction in this life of a social media star.
All right, so we're going to run through a list. Mitch has got to hit me with a number of different rooms, different scenarios, and I'm going to come up with my best solution that I've found from being 9 years in the business and the rooms that I've seen.
An entryway.
All right, so honestly, it depends on the size of the entryway. We're more and more finding wider doorways that are actually now on a huge, big swivel door. We love console tables, sometimes called a hall table, for a very good reason. They give a point of drama upon entering into the room. Functionally, really great to pop car keys. Also really great for a real estate agent to pop all their paraphernalia at the front door, but also a beautiful first impression. You can get big, long, skinny, wide, depth, all different size hall tables, and they're a perfect solution. Now, if it is too narrow, and we do see that in some of our smaller homes that are being developed, then a beautiful oversized pair of canvas artwork that is mounted on the wall doesn't impede on the foot space as you walk down the corridor.
A dining room where the table doesn't fill the entire room.
A couple of different scenarios. If your dining room is square, go with a round dining table. If it is an elongated space, go with a rectangle or an oval shaped dining table. If it is a really, really large space, I would be going with a timber top or a solid top surface. If it is a smaller space or lacks natural light, go with a glass top surface. Now, if your space is larger again, then that's where we would be using things like a bar cart or a buffet or a sideboard or a console table in that space as well. Buffets are fantastic. They're normally found underneath the kitchen and dining space on a website for a reason. They are a kitchen hutch, somewhere to store bits and pieces that go for your kitchen, but are a nice solid block in that room, giving purpose and function.
A bedroom that is too big for just a bed.
Master bedroom suite?
Yeah, master bedroom.
All right, so a master bedroom suite, we're thinking of a room that's larger than 5 by 5. So getting into some of these really big grand homes that have that understated luxury, that are going into the space, that really love to give the impression that mum and dad are going to have a moment to sit down, and then it actually never pans out that way. So it does depend on size. So larger than 5 by 5, but kind of smaller than a 5 by 7. So that's really giving us space to be able to do 2 armchairs and a side table, or maybe a bed box on the end of the bed, and really giving the feeling that it's a retreat space. I don't love putting extra storage into the master bedroom itself. I think that should be reserved for the walk-in robe. It really does give the impression we don't have enough space in that walk-in robe when we're starting to need to put storage into the master bedroom itself. But if you can do things like floor mirrors, the sitting space for me works beautifully, although honestly it ends up just being a wardrobe.
For more than a living room, but not large enough for a combined living dining.
Not your combined dining living. I'm thinking your formal living space. Formal dining spaces are really a thing of the past. There are only a few suburbs in Brisbane where we actually style with a formal dining, and that generally has a dedicated pendant within that room. So if there is a pendant positioned to the one side of a room, you shouldn't ignore it. Either remove it if you're living in the property, or position it with a formal dining space underneath it. Now, if you've got an elongated rectangle, so your 3 by 5 space, that really gives you the opportunity to start playing around with pairs of sofas. So a 3-seater sofa with a 2.5-seater sofa, potentially another pair of occasional chairs and a sideboard at the end of the room. That's what an oversized formal living space looks for us. Key is, in a space like that, if we're using 2 sofas, we really should be going with an oversized rectangle coffee table like the one in front of me, or my favorite is a square coffee table. Meter by meter square coffee table really helps to define that space and set that room, and it is really reserved for a room that has that size space to be able to give. Now, if that room is not our formal living space and it is more where the kids are going to be, then we can go with an oversized chase lounge. We can still have our TV space, and then it gives us the potential or functional potential to have a study nook in that space. So a desk and a desk chair with an area where the kids can be off to the side doing homework, and then we have obviously the family side of that room. It's all done in the one space, so you don't have your workspace impeding on your private space, and it's all separated into a family living room space.
Under the stairs.
Yeah, so what we're finding is the staircase is more and more becoming a statement factor within a home. Rightfully so, that can be quite costly. Now, regardless of whether it's a spiral staircase, if it's a staircase that has the hook as it goes up.
you have this space that is underneath. Now, if it's not built in, which is what we traditionally did, it does leave a zone underneath there that we can give potential to. Depends on height factor, depends on space and how much. So often, there's 3 different ways that we kind of tackle an understair space. Simple and minimal, and if it's only a small amount of space, we'll go with a beautiful set of pots, a cluster of pots and some trees and some greenery. A little bit more space, a bench seat is a beautiful spot. Now, that to me replaces the idea of a mud room. So the bench seat is supposed to give the impression that's where we're going to sit down, get our shoes and socks on and leave the door. Maybe have your bag hooks above it if you're living there, but it's a transition zone, a thoroughfare zone for you to be able to do that. Now, if you have a bit more space, again, we can go with a hallway table or a study nook that can tuck underneath the stairs. That is, we find more often at a townhouse where we employ that, because other space is tight at a townhouse, and if you can get the most function out of the small space that we have, a study space always ticks a really big box. If we had an asymmetric room, generally what we're trying to do is make that not the master bedroom. And I would say great design would normally have that not being the master bedroom. It would be one of the additional bedrooms. Now, if we can get away with a single bed being in that room and doing a TP or a desk space set up in that area, that would give really good space dimension to it without necessarily impeding on the thoroughfare in that room, which is what an angled room definitely does. The other alternative obviously use as a desk and a study space. So a desk floating in the middle of the room with a beautiful armchair sitting in the corner. Now, if it is a double room that goes in there, I would hope that there'd also be space in the little defined nook for another chair, but it would have to be something simple and floor plan space be small.
A cutout nook.
This is, I find, more in a traditional type home. This is less and less being something we're seeing in new builds, and definitely more of something that we'd see done in the 90s. So it really depends. Do we have little downlights in there? Are they meant to be a feature space? Are they small? If they are small, then we're probably doing a series of vases or a series of home decor that would help to give some purpose to the space. But when they're small, even when you're living in there, they're kind of redundant. When they're a bit larger, can we get a bit of artwork in there? And then again, we did one today where we had a cutout, and that's actually where the TV would go. Trying to give purpose if we can, but giving aesthetic purpose where we're able to as well. Generally, that's what the cutouts are. Now, if they are a room separator, which we've had a number of those, I would again say vacant space is equally as valuable as far as styling a property and having your vacant space is visually as important as occupied space. So do consider leaving it empty.
So I want a reading nook. I'm not sure where to put it.
In a home that we're styling for sale, the master bedroom in the corner, we've got multiple corners and bedrooms 2, 3, 4 often. Can we do a study with a reading nook to replace a formal dining space, or is there a space within a study room where we can actually do 2 chairs and a side table to make a reading nook? Now, if you are living in the home and there is a spot that I would try to recommend, that when you're living in a home, it's different. You're positioning the room around how you use it, and how you feel within your home is far more important. So for example, in our home, the afternoon sunlight comes through in a beautiful spot in our combined family dining space. So we've positioned the armchair in that room to be positioned around the sunlight. Now in summer it's horrendous and horrible, but during winter there's not a better spot in our home to be.
I want a study desk, but don't have a milk desk.
So running it for sale, we'll often pop, like I said before, underneath the stairwell in a second living space, family living. If there's space in the second room, never in a combined living space or in a home that only has the one living area. If we put it into that type of area, there's too much going on. But if we have a second living area and we have the ability to put a study nook in there, we will. In bedroom 4 with a single bed, it generally tends to be the best spot. If you're living in your home, you might have a stairwell, like an apartment 3-bedroom townhouse where you go up the stairs and have a stair landing. That's also a really great spot to put it. But then honestly, you're going to be able to tuck it into any room if you're living there. Plants, it depends on your love for greenery. So we have people who have been with our business who love plants so much. They have a name for each individual plant they have in their home, and they have a plant in every room. So in each room, they have one in the bathroom. They've got multiple in their living space. And vibrancy really helps the energy, but also the greenery helps with clean air. So all those things go hand in hand. So if you're living in your home, there is no right or wrong answer to that question. Now, if you're styling it for sale, I would limit it to one per living space, but also little bits of greenery over all the surfaces. We tend to pop them in corners of rooms or nestling underneath the stairwell, like I said before. Couple reasons, because we use artificial greenery. If it falls over in the corner, it makes more sense rather than falling down in the middle of the room. Similar philosophy for floor lamps. I don't like floor lamps floating in the middle of the room. If I've got a sofa in the middle, I don't love a floor lamp sitting next to it, because you're never going to have that plugged in. We can't run a cable across the room to plug it into an electrical cord, so I will very infrequently have my floor lamp right next to my sofa. Now, if you're at home and you tend to do crosswords or cross stitch and you need an up close lamp, that's going to make more sense for you when you're living there. So function and design for living versus sale are very different. For sale, it's important to have the floor lamp, but I pop it into the corner of the room. The reason it's important to have is because it's for ambience and it helps to set the tone, particularly for twilight or nighttime opens. Being our top performing blog, I know that everyone's going to have little spaces that they have. I am an open book. I would love to know what areas you have or what solutions you might have for those spaces. Send us them through, comment on Facebook, send us a DM, let us know what you would love answered. Alternatively, I'd love to see your homes and what you've got happening.